Welcome back, everyone, to our finale part of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. This is a long one, so I'm just going to pass it on over to Christian because there is so much to cover. So let's finish this bad boy off.
It is. It is a long one as far as story is concerned.
Yeah.
Just for even a reference here, the notes that I took, I just did it in Notepad, thinking that because I've been doing them in Notepad because that usually hasn't been too bad. Notepad only measures characters for me, but I'm at 30,000 characters
Jesus.
for on my notes, so it's a bit.
Goodness.
So here's what we're gonna do. So similar to these other ones, some of these story heavier ones, I'm just going to rip through this as far as story is concerned. I'll find some spots where we can stop and talk about what's going on. As far as gameplay stuff, I'm going to briefly talk about boss fights. Otherwise, you can assume the same sneaking and shooting is happening in between some of these sections. If I'm talking about we're making our way to A to B, so. With the exception of a couple things, and I'll call those out. So, so we're picking up right where we left off, where we were told that we needed to go save Emma. So we are on our way to save Emma, and on our way out, we get stopped by Rose to yell at us again, and I put in parentheses here, at the most inconvenient time. For being too distant from her, and she brings up the time where she busted into Raiden's room and found a desk and a bed only. And Raiden lets her know it's because he's terrified of what happens at night, where he has basically waking nightmares constantly about his past, and he doesn't want to let anybody in. She goes, but he also says, this is not the time to talk about this right now. I'm in the middle of a mission. I'm not talking about this right now. And so he goes, I'm gonna go back to saving Emma. So we make our way through the flooded area, and as we get towards the door, we actually get told by Otacon that Emma is afraid of water, and it's because she almost drowned when they were kids. And Raiden correctly asked Otacon what the hell he was doing at the time, and Otacon sort of deflects and changes the subject back to the fact that just Raiden needs to be prepared to help her swim. And so we swim through this area. If this is your first time through, this is where you will see that moment that I talked to you guys about, where Peter Stillman's body can float out from the door, and you,
I got
see him there.
Yep.
But as we make our way through here, we get through our next level. We are met with a most unfortunate reoccurrence of the worst villain of all time, in my opinion, Vamp. And so he is back, and he lets us know that Emma is on the other side of the room, and that she's already served their purpose for Dead Cell as bait to bring him in, and so they no longer need her at all. But he also wants to let us know that just because the president is dead, is that the threat of the nuclear attack is still viable, because Arsenal gear is fitted with a pure hydrogen bomb. That even Solidus was not aware of up until they started getting the launch procedures going. And the secret was that, or the reason this is because, is that this bomb does not actually activate or is not able to be launched until Arsenal gear is ready to activate. So once it starts getting turned on, the bomb is then it's ready to be launched. And so Vamp also goes on to explain why Dead Cell hates the Patriots so much, and why they joined forces with Solidus in the first place, or came back to him, I should say, because he was their, they were his secret agent when he was still president. But he basically talks about the fact that the Patriots, when they ousted George Sears, they also went and did a smear campaign for all of the people in Dead Cell, and basically made them out to be crazy terrorists and everything else like that. And so that's the role that they ended up taking on when all those people were ousted during Solidus' presidency. From right there, we lead into the Vamp fight. So this fight you can do it a couple different ways. There's an easy way and then a hard way, or I should say a normal way. Or in Preston's case, he probably just smoked him no matter what. You can, he spends some time diving around and like running around, and throwing knives at you and different things. You can use any sort of weapon or whatever to try to get at him. The easiest one though is if you just use the stinger launcher to lock onto him, and shoot rockets at him. You can do that like 6 times. It takes out most of his health, and then you're done. Otherwise, it'll take a little bit longer. And there's people who do the non-lethal version of this fight to like use tranks and stuff. You can try to use stun grenades and tranks and different things if you're trying to go for a no-kill run. And that can take, I've seen people say that run sometimes can take them 30 to 45 minutes. Too much.
No, thank you.
I was a bit confused by Vamp at the beginning, I think, or it was right here at the end, correct me if I'm wrong, Christian, but when he's talking about, like, he says, like, I was so looking forward to tasting, like, your muscles and your tendon and other stuff, and it was just like,
Yeah.
what are you? Like, I know you're,
weirdo.
like, vampire.
Fucking weirdo.
No, I get, yeah, but, like,
He
what
is.
are you?
So we'll talk about this more, but more or less the thing about Vamp is that he is fully, like we were talking about before, he's fully nanomachined out, and to the point where he can also take and repurpose other nanomachines to do different. So in Raiden being a genome soldier is also pumped full of nanomachines. So when he's talking, and just like all of the other soldiers that are on those boats, they all have nanomachines. So Vamp is out there biting people and doing all that stuff because it's just extra nanomachines for him. It's just fill me up with that nanomachine goodness. That's really it.
And let me walk on water and float above it like I'm Jesus. Like it was...
nanomachines. He's a freak. Like that's I don't know. I genuinely I put him in the same category as Quiet from. I do not like him. I just top to bottom. I do not like that character. But so I put we kill ? Vamp and let Campbell know that Vamp confirmed that nuclear threat is still viable, and he tells us that we need to find Emma quickly so that we can get her to install the virus program into Arsenal gear to sort of take everything out. We then call Snake and Otacon to update them, and Snake says that the virus can't be installed without Emma, so we are going to have to save the hostages for later and work on this problem. Otacon also lets us know that the reason he sort of gives us extra context about the reason that Emma is terrified of water, and he's saying that she also might blame him a bit because after that whole incident he left their family, like he just ran away from home more or less, and after the dad's funeral, and Raiden goes to like sort of challenge him, being like, yo, that sounds like you're a fucking huge asshole, and Snake interrupts him and is like, we don't have time for this family stuff, we gotta go, like right now, stop arguing. So he interrupts and says that we need to hurry, and so we go across the next room, and some other parallels here, just like some moments before, some other parallels to the first game, and we end up finding Emma in the exact same way that Snake finds Otacon in the first game. So she's hiding in a locker, she gets a gun pulled on her, and then immediately pees herself. And I put here that Kojima decides to also make this Emmerich pee on themselves. And Emma immediately does not trust us for good reason, because we have a gun in her face. But after talking through, Raiden convinces her to use the codec communication through nanomachines, and we were able to convince her through there, and sort of get Otacon on the line as well, that we were really here to help, and then we were also here to help her overcome her fear of water. And as we come out to this next room, we actually also dunk on her for wearing glasses for fashion. There's this moment where she's like, I gotta put my glasses, and he's like, oh, well, aren't you gonna not be able to see? And she's like, I can see anyway, like these are, I'm just wearing them because I like the way they look. And he's like, oh, that's fucking dumb. And then she's like, oh, thanks, I guess. Like, it's just very funny that Raiden is just like, I'm just gonna make fun of you really quick for liking something. But then, so we make it through the first leg. We give her a break on the other side. And so she sort of gives us some extra backstory on how close her and Otacon were when they were siblings. How when she was super young. They used to play house as kids, and just talking about all the stuff that there's the older brother, younger sister sort of relationship there, and how much she came to rely on him. So then we update Campbell on our status, and he tells us that we're going to need to make it to the computer room with Snake and Otacon, while also reminding us that we are going to need to end up taking the oil bridge on our way over, because that main bridge was blown up, obviously, on our way over there. So we update Snake and Otacon, and we patch Emma over. And the first thing Otacon does is snap on her for working on this project, despite knowing their family's, history with Metal Gear and nuclear weapons and other things. And she basically says that I did it purely despite him for abandoning the family back then. I just wanted to piss you off. And Otacon goes to explain things, and Snake interrupts again and says, "Everybody shut up and just get to the computer room. Like, I do not have time for you people." And so we make it through our final underwater section here, but once we get on the end, Raiden lets Emma in on the plan about how we are going to upload the virus that we got from the president to stop GW and Arsenal Gear. And while talking about this, she actually mentions that she was the one who created GW, and gives Raiden a full crash course on this AI, what it's capable of, and what their plan is. And she also lets us know that GW actually isn't all the way complete, and that the Patriots were planning some giant experiment within the next few days to give GW sort of a ton of data to study and help judge its processes on. Because remember, the thing that we were learning is that GW is... She sort of breaks this down for Raiden in a more, like she sort of like gentle hands this knowledge to him, and tells him in a way that's like... The same thing that we already known is that GW plans on being this giant sort of information control network that's going to manage what gets sent out to people, and how. And she goes on to mention there's some stories where she's like, there's certain scientific studies that have already been done about the humanity's evolution and different things that you don't even know, but like they've already started using this to subtly alter these reports already for people. And one of the examples that she gives is like, what if you found out that there wasn't actually 26 letters to the alphabet, but there was more, but then all of a sudden somebody goes through and decides that that might actually be problematic for people to know because of X, Y, or Z, and so they decide to erase those things so that nobody ever knew that they were happening in the first place, and you just have the 26 letters that you have to deal with, like that kind of thing. And so obviously Raiden, taken aback by all of this, but was like, we need to hurry up and get rid of GW and the AI in general. So once we get through that section, we take her all the way to the oil bridge, we are able to get towards the last little section here where we get a level 5 card from her because it was attached to her name badge. And once we get our way here, thankfully, the drugs that they injected her with are gone now, so she could finally walk on her own. And so we are able to get her... She's able to make her way across this oil bridge on her own, because Raiden, when he's looking through here, notices that the bridge could only support the weight of one person at a time. It's not going to be able to be something that multiple people can go across.
Like a floating platform you'd see off the sides of some decks and stuff like that, like you would see in a lake house or something like that.
Yeah. And so she ends up... We call Snake and we let him know what's going on here and what the plan is. And Snake says that he will cover from the other side. So from the other side of Shell 1, he will cover and we'll take the other side, and we will just basically guard Emma the entire way as she makes her way over there. And that's exactly what we do. We go through and she makes her way almost all the way to Shell 1 until the last little bit there, the last little couple rungs of the bridge. Who shows back up again but Mr. Vamp himself? He comes shooting out of the ocean like a freak, and lands up on there and puts a knife to Emma and is holding her hostage. And we get to the next part of this phase, which is just shoot him in the head while trying to not hit Emma. You do that, except that the problem is that as Vamp is on his way down, I am happy to report for the last time in this game, and
Game or game series?
huh?
Last time in this game or last time in this game series?
In this game, in Metal Gear Solid 2, he does not show back up again. Well,
so maybe
we'll
later
get there.
on in different games.
Maybe
he may
later
or may not show
on,
up.
something like Vamp or
Awesome.
something comes back around. Who knows? Who just to say? But on his way down, he stabs Emma in the stomach, and Snake runs out, grabs her, and then calls us to say, "Hurry up to the computer room," because Emma's in here working on the computer system, but he doesn't think that she's going to last very long.
That was quite a turn for this. Like in this part of the game, you're the hero. Nothing really bad like that has happened in either of the games. Well, I take it back. The first game you had something similar, but like nothing's really happened like that in this game. And then you waste all this time rescuing this girl, and then like
Carrying her
boom,
along,
like out of
holding her hand
nowhere,
through everywhere.
yeah, just like stab. You're like, oh my, okay, all right.
Yeah. And we'll get there, and obviously there's the stuff that's in 3 that I won't spoil or anything, but I think more so what's happening here is just there is clearly, based on what we've gotten out, the Emmerich family has just awful luck, just top to bottom, and so it seems like they just keep finding themselves in positions that they should just not be in, due to their own meddling for no reason. Because to be fair, and to Otacon's point, not that I want to give him like the benefit of the doubt or anything, but Emma actually does have no business here. Like she's doing this just out of spite for Otacon, but like
way over her head when the company she's keeping.
Yes, with the company that she's exactly. You have no business around super modified, genetically altered terrorists. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And to press your point, it's just the easiest way to say is you are in way over your head just for some petty sort of vengeance to your brother that we come to find out is not even the full story there anyway, but we'll get there. So, once we get into the computer room, Emma's in a bad way. She is completely trying to get bandaged up, but Snake says that her internal organs are completely damaged and they can't stop the bleeding. But she did get everything set up before she ended up passing out, and so all we need to do is put the disc in. So while Otacon is taking care of Emma, Snake and Raiden go over to the terminal. They put the virus disc in, and the virus starts to upload and stops at 90% with the connection being cut, and they cannot get it to reconnect. Emma wakes up at this moment and asks Otacon if everything is all right, and he sort of kind of pans over to Snake and looks at him, and Snake's like shaking his head like, do not tell her that this is all fucked up. And so Otacon is like, yeah, everything's good, everything's good. She's like, oh, sweet, that's great. And at this moment, Snake and Raiden sort of turn back away, and they start to formulate a plan about either just destroying Arsenal Gear wholesale, or to defeat Solidus or whatever, because since the virus clearly isn't going to work, that's the only way they're going to be able to stop GW at this point. And then we are shown, it cuts back to the wider room shot, and we are given a scene where Emma is saying goodbye to Otacon, where Otacon sort of apologized to Emma and says that he tries to apologize to her, and she actually says that she was actually never mad at him. She just wanted to be closer to him, and that she just missed him, and she was hoping eventually that she would not be seen as just like the little sister anymore. And he says that could, it could never happen. And then she sort of interrupts and says that her final request is to just call her Emma instead of just EE. And Otacon, instead of doing that, instead of granting somebody's dying wish, just goes, well, what's wrong with EE? And then she dies. And then he gets very sad and starts saying Emma over and over again, like trying to wake her up. And then he admits to her, again, she's not around for this, but he admits to her that he never left because of her or what happened with his dad or anything like that. He left because Emma's mom, and I should have explained this earlier, but Otacon and Emma are not actual
Blood,
siblings.
yeah.
They are, yeah, they're two separate children that then their parents met later, and then they came together. And so
They're step siblings.
correct. And so he says that it never happened because that is that Emma's mom seduced him, and they had an affair, and his dad found out about it, and so his dad's plan, Huey, his dad's plan was that he was going to commit suicide and take Emma with him, and Emma ended up surviving, obviously. But that was the whole situation there. And so he was like, I left because I felt so bad that I essentially, my actions and all that stuff that was going on with her mother ended up causing my dad to
I mean, that is
off
kind
himself.
of a bonkers story. And I feel like there's so many things you could have done to have made this moment dramatic and give a reason why Otacon left that wasn't stepmother fantasy. Like,
So I'm going to pause here because I want to talk about this. I think I'm trying to be delicate. There is only a certain type of, I don't know, right? Whatever to call it, I guess. But this happens a lot of times in not just like Eastern games, but movies and anime and TV shows. And I just don't fucking get it. Like, I'm sure that this hits for that audience. Like, I'm sure that you read that and somebody that is either around that stuff or has been exposed to it or whatever is like, damn, it do be like that sometimes. But, like, it really doesn't. And so, like, I'm like, it's these moments where I see this and he's like, yeah, my stepmom ended up getting with me, and then it made my dad kill himself, and then this whole thing, and there's all this other, you know,
I have a guess.
not family, familiar related stuff, and I'm just like, guys,
I have
enough.
a guess and I wonder, and I'm not of a Japanese culture, so I don't know. Like, somebody would have to tell me if I was correct or not even anywhere close. But
And I don't even think it's Japanese specifically, right? Like, I genuinely, I see it in general.
Eastern, yeah.
But in Japan, and I know other Eastern cultures too, like, having an affair, or a one-night stand specifically, a long-term affair is different, but, like, having a one-night stand, hooking up with somebody, typically isn't that
Not that big of a deal. I agree.
big of a deal,
Yeah.
right? Like it's one of those things. It's almost like if it was a one-night stand, you hooked up with somebody at work, it was a drunken night, and you go home, it's like, it's not a big deal, you move on. However, family is very important in these cultures, so I wonder if it's just seen as like such a big, like, if you bring those two things together,
It could
maybe
be.
that's why you see it. But I agree, like, it was just odd. I was like, I feel like
It's just that kind of
Yeah.
plot point. It's not something that's unique to Kojima. It's not something that's
Yeah.
unique to Metal Gear
Yeah.
Solid or anything. Like, it's in plenty of different animes and all
It's
like where it's
in a lot
like.
of places, yeah.
But I mean is from that side, like, it's in plenty of different medium that's just on that.
Jesus Christ,
that's
Preston.
on the Eastern side. And yeah, I know I'm moving past that, and but I'm just saying it's definitely like, and so it's just one of those things where every single time that comes up in Eastern media in general, I'm always like, guys, what are we doing?
I don't.
Like,
I mean,
what
it
are we
apparently
doing?
happens to other people. That's why it's in a lot of these stories, because it's something that's so fucked up to where it's like, oh man, it's one thing for, someone else to be hitting on you and like your dad to get jealous or something like that, but it's a completely other thing if, like, your stepmom was the one fucking hitting on you.
Yeah.
And your dad kills himself because.
I will say the
that.
part of this that is actually able to be understood as far as like a bummer moment is, Alex, to your point, is like, if you're the direct cause of your parent
Yes.
leaving this plane of existence,
He
that's
was
a
a young
huge
kid
bummer.
who was seduced and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
it's like not something that he had full control over either, because he was a child. He was a younger kid or younger
Yeah.
adult. So it's fucked up. Altogether, it's fucked up. Did Kojima need to go that far? No, but it's also Kojima, so he will go that far. So
Yeah. But as they sort of pan out and, he finishes that part of that story, and Raiden and Snake are both in the room like, yikes. Like, but then we hear Emma's parrot say Otacon's name, and it makes him even more emotional. But the moment is cut short with Solidus coming in over the intercom, letting everybody know that Arsenal gear is ready to launch and they need to evacuate immediately. And so Snake and Otacon tell us that the part we are on is going to get jettisoned off and sank to the bottom of the bay. And so we make plans for Otacon to get the hostages out. And not before Otacon gives us an extra little flashback of him always being the survivor and him sort of remembering Sniper Wolf through all these bad events that happen in his life. And it's like, it actually is true that you, of all of the people that you curse around you, as far as, you know, the Emmerich curse or whatever that he mentions in the first game, he actually is the one that always survives whatever the encounter is. And so he reminds us, by the way, he tells Snake and Raiden that he goes, you guys aren't going to be able to destroy this, by the way. Your only option is to beat Solidus. You aren't going to be able to blow this up. And so as we make our way out back to the elevator with a really cool guy walk between the three of them.
Yeah, they do a slow-mo movie walk. Yeah.
They
So
do. It's this
funny.
slow-mo sort of action
so
walk thing, and
funny.
you're like, yeah. But then it's cut immediately to the parrot says Otacon's name again and then says that I'll miss you. No, he doesn't say I miss you at this point. It just says his name again. And Hal immediately gets pissed off and slams his head up against the wall. And Snake sort of shakes him and tells him to wake the hell up. And he's like, yo, you have to get as many hostages as you can. And he's like, and don't worry about the weight limit on the chopper because you're just doing a one-way trip. Like, and we're already closing in on the bay anyway. So like, just land at as close you can and don't worry about it. Don't come back. Like, so just shove as many people as you can.
He gives Otacon like a pretty good pep talk.
He does.
He immediately goes out the door and then just collapses to his knees.
So he tells him, he's like, you're the only one that can do this. He's like, I trust you, you know, this thing. And they have this cool, like, NBA style high five, like this special handshake between the two of them. And Hal sort of leaves and he's like, fuck yeah. So he comes off the elevator and then we get a shot of him walking off the elevator. And the parrot, before flying away as a final fuck you, says, Hal, I'll miss you. And he just drops to his knees and starts crying. And sort of he has like a monologue over the sunset, or as it's panning out to the sunset. But this monologue is basically just saying, like, you can't just wait for things in life like a happy family or love or anything out. You need to just go out and make those things happen. And he's talking about how he just recently learned that. And he's hoping that before the end, Emma also, you know, learned that as well.
Spoiler, she didn't. She's dead.
No.
She had no time.
But this cuts back to Snake and Raiden, and here's, I think, one of the bigger sort of reveals, and we're gonna pause at the end of this section, and we'll sort of talk about. We'll just do a little quick check-in. But we cut back to Snake and Raiden, and Snake says, "You can come out now." And then everybody's favorite innuendo ninja shows back up, and says to not fail us this time. And Raiden asks Snake what the hell is going on. But Snake says that it's time for bedtime, and Raiden tries to pull a gun out, and the ninja pulls a sword and puts it out to him and says, "I wouldn't do that." And then Raiden goes, "Why are you switching sides now of all times?" And then Snake looks at us and says, "I don't actually remember ever telling you that I was on your side in the first place." And then after the ninja removes the face mask to reveal that it was actually Olga the whole time.
Yep.
And then we are knocked out. And after the fade to black, we see Arsenal gear start to remove all of the extra parts of the big shell, and we start to see sort of a vague shape of what Arsenal gear starts to look like, while Otacon is shown flying away with all of the hostages. And then we are asked by Rose to save our game very conveniently, with no talk back this time, obviously, because Raiden is knocked out. And Raiden sort of wakes up somewhere pretty familiar to everyone but Raiden. But I'm going to pause here. So quick check-in with everybody, but then also really mainly, how did we feel about the reveals, especially the, you know, sort of that little twist there right at the end?
So I really enjoyed all of this stuff up to this point.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and nothing was too long either. So like even the underwater scene and stuff, like nothing was too long, but everything in between, the dialogue with the sister was really good. The twist, like even the sniper part was well done, where you're getting
Yeah.
her across the bridge, and then like from the moment she gets stabbed, you're just in this like holy shit zone for the next like 20 minutes,
Yeah.
right? And I thought it was really good. I think that some of the twists up to this point, and a couple of twists we'll talk about coming later, are like hit the mark. There's one, in my opinion, that does not at all. But like up to this point, it was hitting for me, and I was pretty excited to see where it was going. And I knew we weren't far from the end either. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Like Alex said, like it things didn't linger for too long. Like I was really worried that whole like because it says, hey, once you get through the water and find Emma, you better fucking remember your steps back because you know it's gonna be kind of a maze. I'm like, man, this is gonna suck. I'm gonna look up a guide to find out if I need to go left or right. Went through it just fine. Like there wasn't any problems. Like you go up when you find the air spots. And you just kind of aim towards whichever door. You can kind of see the mini map there too, so you kind of know where you're going for the most part. It's not too. It doesn't try to get you off track very easily. And then getting to the sniper section, or let's start with the vamp fight. So I'm fighting him. I get the call to the codex. I'm like, okay, well I'm not fucking hitting him at all. I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, don't use your lock on. Just make sure that you just aim freely. I'm like, okay, well fuck it. So I get out the M4 or whatever. I'm like hosing him down. I run out of that ammo. I'm like, okay, well, what else do I have next? I just go through my arsenal. I'm like, well, got a grenade launcher right here. I haven't been using the entire game.
Oh, yeah.
Just go ahead and pop him. He jumps down to like the main floor. I'm like, pum, 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 pum. He flies away real quick just because, you know, he's at a damage threshold. And he's not going to get taken down in one hit. So he runs around a little bit more. You know, I shoot him a couple more times when he's up top. Comes back down. Hit him more times with a grenade. Doing just fine. I will 100% not be playing the next Metal Gear game on the easiest difficulty because I am flying through. We'll get to it when we get to it, but like the very last boss of this game, I just bought time to see if there was a different phase or something because I was going through it so quickly. And I didn't want. I didn't want to. I feel like if I'm beating a boss like within seconds, like if I'm beating a boss in 15 seconds, I feel like I've missed out on something in this. At least for the overall experience.
And Alex, you played on normal, yeah? Or did you play on regular easy mode?
Regular easy, not very easy.
Not very easy, yeah. Me personally,
Because I did the first game on regular.
Yeah.
And I think there's a drastic scaling difference in those.
yeah. Me personally, that end fight, and we'll get there, I think you do end up missing out when you get to just kind of blow through it.
Sure. So I made sure not to blow through it for that exact reason. But yeah, the vamp fight was easy. Went through it just fine. Swim with her, it was fine. And yeah, getting through the rest of it. The sniper area, I'm not sure if there was a huge difference between what I had and you guys had. A couple drones flying around. Get to the first area. After you take off the guys, more guys come out right there. There's like 2 guys.
Yeah.
Same thing kind of happens for the next pillar. More drones pop out. A couple more guys pop out after you kill the other ones. And then with the vamp fight, like it happened so quickly, and I'm like pressing buttons to see how to zoom in on my sniper rifle. I couldn't figure it out. I don't know if it was just easy helping me with the hitboxes or not, but the first 2 shots I got, like the first shot was definitely in the head. Second shot was maybe a little bit off to the side, but I still got him, and then he was just down with those 2 shots. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I feel pretty cool. Yeah, because I didn't get to zoom in with that sniper rifle on this. Like, the whole cutscene has him zoomed in, like real close to his face, and then you go back to the game, and I pull my sniper rifle, and it's nowhere near that close. I'm like, well, I don't remember what the button was to zoom in. I press a couple buttons, it doesn't work. And the first one I shot, it shoots the gun. I'm like, okay, well, fuck it. Just shoot it again and see if I can get it. I'm like, oh, yeah, got him. Cool. I really appreciate them not making you walk all the way through that area. I'm sitting there like, man, now I got to do it myself. And it's like cutscene, like, fuck yeah, guys. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, Ryan does a cool guy run, basically, through the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't do that either, because I couldn't have done that. Because earlier, when the bridge breaks and you have to crawl across the ledge, drop on the pipe, run up the pipe, I failed on that 10 times.
Really?
Like just walking on simple stuff.
Yeah.
It took me 7 times to realize when you step on the little brown spot, it's slick and you lose your footing and fall. So yes, I'm also glad they did not make me walk across the bridge.
Did you guys, the Easter egg in this part, did you guys ever end up using not that you would think to do this, but did you ever use the microphone gun and point it towards Emma while she's walking?
No.
So
she, like, freaking out?
It's really nothing, but it's just some extra dialogue where you hear she's like, fucking shit. Like, she's like trying not to fall, and like,
hilarious.
she's like, oh, I'm sucking, I don't want to fall,
That's
I don't
awesome.
want to
Put
do this. Like, is
in
this,
for that?
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was actually kind of a nice touch.
There are two things that kind of tripped me up in the Emma escort mission, if you will. So you got the sea lice. They're in front of a elevator or a door at one point. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, how the fuck do I get over there? So I'm trying to, drag her hand over. She keeps on stopping. So I take the coolant out. And I start trying to spray the bug with the coolant because they kind of space themselves out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But as soon as I get done with the coolant, you go back to her, all the bugs are fucking back. I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, all right. So I'm pressing buttons, trying to figure out how the fuck am I going to get them down. I accidentally laid down the sea lice, and my rations now have sea lice on them.
Yep.
So I found out to get the sea lice off, they said you have to shake your rations off. I'm like, well, I don't know how to fucking shake my rations because it's not an object you hold in your hand. It's an object you pull up your menu and press a button. So the idea for that is you go into the menu, you go back and forth on the inventory, and then after a couple other times, because the rations have like a little sea lice icon on them, and after you do that a couple times, the sea lice icon goes beep, and like jumps off of it. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of fun.
I was gonna say I actually like that. I
thought that was kind of fun. And then the other one, what was the other one? So it was the sea lice, and then so when you're getting to that strut where you got to go down into the sniper area, you're supposed to go past the fire. Well, as I'm getting close to the fire, I hear this sound, and it's not my codec sound, so I just think, oh, that was a warning sound. But it's actually the cell phone sound to tell you to use your fucking fire extinguisher and coolant. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. So like I'm going towards them, like, oh, she just give me a warning. So as I turn around, she trails behind you, walks into the fire, and catches fire. And I'm like, what the fuck? Killing enemies, figuring out like what the fuck's going on. So I actually that was when I looked at the guide for like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? All these doors are locked. I don't know where to go. And it's like I see the guy go up there, and as soon as that little sound gets made, he pulled the cell phone. I'm like, oh, the fucking cell! I forgot about the cell phone. Pull it up, tells you to use the coolant. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But yeah, other than that, I've enjoyed all of it up to this point. Like I said, the lore and the story pieces, they don't go too long. And then
did the Olga reveal surprise you guys?
Yes, 100% surprised me.
Yeah.
It kind of made a little more sense because the first time you see her on the thing, she does the little flippy flips off, which okay, whatever, she can do flippy flips. But then as you come back down later on, after you take in whatever you do up there, that is where fucking Deep Throat's at. And then like, oh, okay, so that makes sense why Deep Throat was like right there after you see Holga. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I thought that was a great reveal. That was a great job.
Cool.
Other than that,
shout out to Christian just beating us into submission. I remembered multiple times in this playthrough to use the cell phone, even around the sea lice thing where they're just like, just shoot her and knock her out. Just knock her out. Like, okay.
Well, I end up having just to like grab her, and she's like, ah, as I'm like dragging her over past the sea lice and shit. She breaks free at one point and tries to run away. I'm like, no, I'll grab you again.
Yeah.
I tried pulling a gun on her to see if like I get her to like just go forward kind of thing, and she didn't do anything.
The other thing is,
so
if you
did you drag
coolant,
her? Did you just drag her through it? Because I shot her with the strength dart.
Oh no, I just like went behind her, grabbed her from behind, and then like, she's like ah, and I'm like dragging her through the sea lice.
The best part is you can use if you use the coolant long enough, you will make it so that the bugs stay gone for long enough.
Dude,
and
I was sitting there like
in.
the floor was clear. Like some of them kind of went towards the vents, but I couldn't hit them anymore. Like I spend time on that.
You do.
Lice.
So it is. You have to sit there and walk forward like inch by inch and do it. Alex, what you did is the genuine way that most people do, where they just knock her out and take her. And Preston, to be fair, your way is also totally viable of doing it. It's very funny, but you can do it that way. But yes, if you did want to just walk her normally, the game will let you inch by inch like get rid of all of the bugs, but you really have to sit there and get after it.
So I was doing it the right way. Okay.
Yeah, but there's no the point is there's no wrong way, but the quickest way, the speed run way, is shoot her with a trank gun and drag her through it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's good. Yeah. So we wake up, like I said, in an area that's familiar to everybody but Raiden, and it kind of obviously for since we're doing this book club thing, it looks exactly like when Snake was knocked out after the Sniper Wolf fight and dragged into the torture room. Yep. Yeah. And so that's the same thing that's happening here. So we hear the voices of Solidus and Revolver Ocelot, and they're talking, and Ocelot sort of mentions that he's done a full background check on us, including all of our like genetic data and everything, and he can't find a single thing. He was like, he is a non-existent operative from a non-existent agency, and Solidus seems a little bit surprised, but he goes, I'm like, that is interesting, but I know who this man is. And we sort of lean forward, and we see Solidus is there, and he goes, "It's been a while, hasn't it, Jack the Ripper?" Now, that is a name that no one will have heard before, except you two have played Revengeance, and you know that that is a nickname
yeah.
that people call him by. So that's sort of a little inkling, and there's some other things that happen later, but a little nod to the person that Raiden either A, used to be, or might become again, depending on whatever's going on.
Is Revengeance is a sequel, or do they consider it a standalone story?
No,
Like,
Revengeance is a sequel
to this.
to Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah.
Okay.
More or less. Yeah.
Cool.
So he then grabs us with his Doc Ock tentacles, and he says that he's sort of examining us, and he goes that there's clearly we have a ton of cerebral implants, and he's pretty sure that they have altered our memory. Clearly talking about the Patriots here. And Ocelot goes, "Are you sure that you actually know who he is?" And Solidus says that he is sure because that's my son. And he goes, and now there's a big reveal, obviously. And he goes that everything that we've learned between our name to all of our fighting skills, we learned from him. And this is where we get a flashback to, I think, one of the cooler sort of backstories of a character in Metal Gear. We find out that Raiden was a child soldier during the Liberian Civil War back in the 80s. Real thing. Obviously, child soldiers were used during that conflict. And so they're saying that Raiden was there, and that his performance and his kill record back then earned him the nicknames like Jack the Ripper or White Devil. He goes on, huh?
Questuorcha
Yeah.
means white devil. White
Yes. And he goes on to say that after the war, he never saw us again after we fled the relief center, but he never thought that the Patriots would be able to get to us. And then he tells Ocelot that he should use us against the Patriots, like he suggested. But before Ocelot can respond, Liquid tries to take over his body again. And once it calms down, he says that it must be because Snake is here too. So Solidus then says that it's, we're 1 hour away from being able to demonstrate the power of alternate gear, and that Ocelot sort of responds to that by saying that everything is proceeding as planned, and the soldiers are already being outfitted with the arsenal gear equipment as they speak. And so Solidus says, "Cool, I'm gonna leave you to it," and he leaves. Ocelot then turns to us and says that he finds this situation very nostalgic, obviously because he was literally in this exact same position with Snake. And, who knows? Maybe we'll find out later that that's a point to all that. But Ocelot then tells us that where we are is inside Arsenal Gear, but more specifically, he says that you're inside the memory of Shadow Moses. And then he takes the virus disk from us and says that he's pretty sure we won't be needing this anymore. And then Olga enters the room, and he goes, "A foul wind is blowing, and that we are going to talk again soon." And he just leaves. And so then Olga says, "Don't move, because there is a camera here watching, but that we need to switch over to the nano communications." So then Olga tells us that she was sent here by the Patriots to help us, and that she's been working with them since the tanker incident 2 years ago. Because they abducted her child at birth and have been holding her hostage ever since. And so Raiden then asks about Snake, and she says that they only actually started working together a short time ago while we were getting Emma ready to cross the bridge. So it's funny that in that time where we're sitting there talking to her and prepping her to get across, Snake is actually in the middle of a boss fight on that other side. Is basically what's happening. So she then also tells us that she accepted Snake's help because if this mission fails for any reason and Solidus' plan goes off, then it would be deemed a failure on her part and the Patriots would kill her kid. And so we then ask why the Patriots are helping us in the first place. And she, just like everybody else, kind of looks at Raiden like, "What are you talking about?" And then just immediately goes on to say, it's all part of the S3 plan and that we would figure it out later, but she isn't sure if Raiden is going to be able to handle the truth. And she goes to leave the room and says that as soon as she leaves, she'll release the restraints and that we can find Snake in a hidden passage towards the hangar. And we tell her that she can't just keep this up and that she's definitely going to be found out sooner or later. But she says that she will be fine and is just going to remain hidden for as long as possible, and then punches us in the stomach and leaves the room. We then get a call from Rose, who asks us if everything she heard was just true, and we say yes. She then goes on to complain about the legality of having child soldiers, and Raiden kind of interrupts her and is like, that's never stopped anybody. And although, and that there's, during that conflict, there was as many as 300,000 child soldiers. And he then was like, and I was just one of them. And that although his memory has clearly been altered by the Patriots, he remembers bits and pieces of this time, which is what all of his nightmares are about. And Rose then says that she wishes he would have told her, and Raiden replies that him being a drugged up killer is not something that couples really share with each other. And that he goes on to say that he knows why he was picked for this mission, and it's because only he is capable of taking down Solidus. And he also tells Rose that the last 2 years with her have been great, but it can't go on because he cannot give her the family or life that she wants. And then she goes, let's just leave it for now and talk about it later. And then we drop from the restraints and we move on. And the part there where he says the drug of killer is because he was saying that all of the child soldiers in his unit were fed little bits of gunpowder to give them like hallucinogenic properties so that they would just be fucking psycho killers out there, basically. Yeah, I just think it's funny that Rose is like, you should have told me. I was like, well, first of all, I didn't even know. Like, I only have parts of these memories in the first place, like, that I'm just barely piecing together. But, like, this is not...
That's a lot of trauma to just up and share with somebody.
Just dump on somebody. Yeah. It's very funny.
Going out for coffee. Going to talk about how I was a child soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. But as soon as we leave the room, this is actually where I think some of a lot of the cooler moments start to happen, sort of back to back. But as soon as we leave the room, we get a strange call from the Colonel, and he says that we need to hurry up and complete the mission, and that we should just forget about Snake as he was not factored into the simulation at all. Raiden brings up that he can't really do anything without his equipment, so he needs to be there, and he's like, but, you know, and the Colonel's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Go get your stuff and then hurry up and move on. And Raiden actually goes, he's like, actually, one other thing is that I realize now that I've never actually met you. And the Colonel sort of like grimaces a little bit, and says to hurry up and finish the mission and that they have Rose, and then hangs up. And Raiden's like, what? And then he gets hung up on. And as we make our way through the corridor, we get another call from the Colonel who tells us to hurry up and turn off our game console, and that the mission is a failure. And Raiden asks what the hell is wrong with him. And then Rose pops on and tells us that playing this close to the screen will be bad for our eyes. And then the Colonel cuts over and gives us a crazy-ass story about some orange, unidentified flying object that followed him home. And then he asks him, he was like, and him waking up at home, and then goes, what do you think that was? And then Raiden was like, what are you talking about? And then the Colonel just hangs up on us. So from this moment on, I'm going to kind of go forward, but we get a bunch of random calls at this moment, like all the way making our way to Snack.
So the random calls, did anyone actually shut off their quote-unquote console? No. I thought this was some Psycho Mantis shit, so I quit the game and restarted it.
Oh,
and came
Preston
back
leaves he loses like 30 minutes of
20 minutes of like just walking around the random shit. I'm like, okay, well, you got me. You got me on that one. I thought this was some Psycho Mantis shit to where you wanted me to turn off my shit and turn it back on. And somehow you would have a save right here to where you come back and be weird dialogue. Yeah, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, so that is unfortunate. But yeah, so we get some random calls, and there's like a lot of voice altering stuff that's going on, like some crackling and some like flange that's going on, sort of. But we get some random calls from the Colonel and Rose saying all sorts of weird stuff that basically is some of it is completely nonsensical. Then there's some other stuff about Rose cheating on us, to also footage of old Metal Gear games, which is kind of crazy.
That's awesome.
And it sort of ties in some of the VR mission stuff where Raiden was being trained and stuff too. So it's all very cool. But as the final call we get, though, is from, let's call it real Rose, maybe. But Rose, who does not have any voice alterations or anything like that, but she lets us know that she was actually a spy for the Patriots these last 2 years, and that Raiden then immediately just goes, "I should have known that was the case," and that he's like, "I don't even know who I'm talking to anymore." And Rose tries to interrupt by saying that while yes, their relationship started on false pretenses, like she actually did,
That
fall for him
old
during this
chestnut.
period.
That's what they all say. Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is I love the that's what they all say. Like there's a very wide example of international spies that fall for people.
In movies and shit like that, yeah. Have you ever seen a James Bond movie? Like half the women like he sleeps with is like actually I'm a spy.
Yeah, but the
and, like, I was
difference
trying
is
to get
that
your
James
attention.
Bond doesn't. He isn't under the assumption that he is not the target. Like he's always got his head on a swivel.
I
James
mean,
Bond
this
is not
is-
like.
It's a trope in
In a lot of
in
espionage.
movies,
There's a
but
lot
even
of
like
times-
even like teen movies where it's like I dated her as a joke but fell
Yeah.
for her real. Like it's
that
it's,
part, yes, but I just mean for like the James Bond thing, it's like there's plenty of times where James Bond catches on and like will catch somebody almost trying to poison a drink, and he's like, "You thought I didn't know,
he's
but
the
I
best.
did."
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
gonna
still
find
he's
out.
Sure, okay,
he's
but
still
Ryan
gonna
was
hit it.
mind wiped. He had no idea. It does. Either way.
James Bond's still gonna hit it first, but then
Yeah,
he'll-
well, yeah.
That's a fact.
He's still gonna find out.
That's a fact. Still gonna find out. But then but she basically, she says all this and then says also, she says that she's pregnant. And then as soon as Raiden goes to respond, the signal gets cut, and we are finally met by our old buddy Snake in his traditional gear. And I actually think this shot is very cool because it's
So,
like,
I was worried that this wasn't actually him because like you
Sure,
you cleaned
that's-
up and shaved a
I
little
think
bit,
that's
and all of a
by
sudden
design.
everyone else is fucked up and weird. I'm like, I don't know if I trust you, and we'll talk about
actually
this scenario
that's
here in a second.
great. That's great that happened because I think up until that point, that is exactly what Kojima is wanting. Because
Yeah, because you
every-
lied to me this entire game, so like, why wouldn't this not be Snake?
yeah, but I do think that is a great. I do think even regardless, it is still a great shot of a
Intense,
character
sure.
that.
Yeah, oh yeah,
you know what
he
I mean?
looks
Like,
great. Yeah, and even
we're
like the
finally
codec,
seeing-
he has his like band like right above his eyes, so you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
really see his eyes now. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah, so he's got that. He's got the whole old outfit, right? Like everything that
it's
we're
the
used
outfit
to-
you saw
in-
him as he's going up the elevator at the very beginning of the
Yeah,
game. At least
exactly.
this spot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he basically he gives us our gear and tells us to switch over to Nano Communications, and then he basically apologizes that he had to use this as bait to get into Arsenal gear, but it did work. And then he also so Raiden asks him about Olga, and he goes, "Well, to be fair, you never asked about it. Like I would have told you, but you never asked." And Raiden goes, "Ugh," and then Snake tells him, he goes, "Oh, are you mad about it? Well, get over it because we've got a lot of shit that we've got to do."
Because we're busy.
And so then he tells us that it looks like, from what he can tell, the virus was rigged by the Patriots from the start, but he's still waiting to see the results from that. But from what he can tell, Arsenal Gear is headed towards Manhattan right now. And he doesn't know what Solidus is planning just yet, but he knows that he has an army of 25 Metal Gear Rays, and that we have no choice but to try and stop him. And so he tells us that we have an extra gift from Olga, which is a high-frequency blade. And it, again, just like from before a little bit, with the nicknames and stuff, this gives us a nice little lean into the character that Raiden is obviously eventually going to be.
I say this is what we carry on with us through like like we have this
Oh, yeah.
blade in
Correct.
Revengeance.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually the blade ends up being different, but that first blade is the standard sort of high frequency blade and everything like that. Things change in Revengeance that we'll get to, but yes, that is what that is. And I think it's just a nice nod that back then you didn't know, but now, because obviously all these games are out and we know that Revengeance exists and have seen trailers and whatever, like now you kind of see where the bridge comes, right? Like you start to see where Raiden began and now where he's going to start to lead to.
His attitude and demeanor by this point has changed as well. It was subtle,
Yeah.
but like it went from that really whiny, like, why am I here? Why is everybody else here? What's going on? To now he's like leading the charge and stuff. He's kind of become the hero. And his voice isn't as grating by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah. I think there's actually some really, and I still think that he has some good moments that are upcoming. But yeah, so Snake then says that it's time to move on, and Raiden asks him if he's ever enjoyed killing. And Raiden, he says he's asking this because he felt like the difference between them is that Snake is like this perfect hero who has something to believe in, and Raiden is just like a killer with a bad past who sort of can't escape this thing that he was created into. And Snake sort of tells him that you can change that whenever you want. Like, the only person who's in control of that is you, and all you have to do is find something that you feel like is worth believing in and passing on, and there you go. Now all of a sudden you're not doing this without a motive or for no reason or anything like that. And Otacon interrupts to let us know that he's delivered all of the hostages safely, and asks how we are doing. And Raiden sort of tells him that he's like, everything's fine, but I've been getting some really weird messages from the Colonel and all this other stuff, and Otacon tells us that he's going to look into it for us. And from here, we have sort of a huge combat section that's coming up with Snake as we fight our way sort of towards the elevator, towards the hangar, or the elevator for the hangar, I should say. And so I'll pause here just really quick, because obviously there was some pretty big reveals in there as far as lore is concerned. Just, you guys can very quickly go over how you felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the reveals are very cool. There's everything very cool, getting the sword and stuff like that. The one part that I had a little issue with was when he gives you the sword. So it's kind of like the tutorial on how to use a sword. They tell you how to do it. I do it a couple times. Nothing happens. I walk all the way to the front, door's locked. Walk all the way back, door's locked. And with my suspicion of this might not be Snake, I'm like, well, maybe we should fight Snake. Is that what they want me to do? Because it's not continuing on. Nothing's happening. So I get a little slicey slice here, and then he shoots me. He's like, knock it off. A little slicey slice. He's like, what do you think you're doing? And I'm like, all right, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And I just do it a couple more times, as far as like not at him, but like just away. And it finally goes through. I'm like, okay, that was a little long for you to give me that tutorial. I get it. Left, right, up, down. Like, it's a thing. And you got the little block button too. Like, I'll figure that out more as I go into that next level we're going to get into. But for this point, it's like, all right, just let me do it once or twice, like maybe freeze it up and make me press the button to show it to me, and then be done with it. But don't sit here and make me do it for like a whole like 30 seconds, because it's just weird. Other than that, I mean, there's not super duper much to talk about outside of a couple of the small reveals, but it's all good. It's all good story beats as we go through it.
Yeah, I agree with Preston on everything he just said. Like, I also was like, what the hell is going on with this tutorial? I also accidentally hit Snake, and he got real pissed about it, and I had to run away from him for a minute. So I agree with that. And then, yeah, I mean, the reveals, like, I'm trying to... Man, I tell you what, like, if you start with the Emma thing, we found out Otacon has a sister, is one kind of reveal, and then she gets killed, and that's a big reveal. And then, like, the Olga is there. That's a reveal. We find out what's going on with, like, the Rays. And then, of course, Snake is back. Like, there's 7 or 8. We find out more about, like, our past, right? And, again, the Rose reveal. Back to back. There's, like, 9 or 10 different, like, reveals. And, again, even, in my opinion, to this point, like, they're all hitting. Like, they're all really impressive. It's a lot. It's a lot of coincidence that has to come together at one time. It's a lot. And let me just say this now before I forget it, because I was thinking about it. But this goes for the entire game. I think it's impressively ballsy to have this whole game not change locations. That's not something you see in many games. No. And if you think about it, the first part we got that was different was only a demo, right? It wouldn't have been like part.
It's just included.
This whole game's one location. Never changes.
To be fair, that tanker is still kind of the same. Like, the outside's a little different. It's got rain and stuff like that. But, like, the inside of the tanker is a lot like the inside of, like, this structure. So
yeah, but, like, most games, I mean, they're going to take you to a different place of area. This doesn't.
Biomes,
and it's... I just found it, like, it's impressive. I think, in general, it works. There's some backtracking stuff for this, whatever. But, like, it's just something that's not common. So it's just something that stuck
Yeah.
out to me. Anyway.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to let most of this rip till basically like the
Yeah,
final
go to the end.
encounter here. So so this entire at the end of this combat section, Otacon calls us and tells us that he has figured out the location of the Colonel and that everything is pointing to him coming from inside Arsenal Gear. And he goes, not only that, but the pattern is actually matching that of GW. And so he goes, he believes that what is happening is that it's not coming from GW directly, but more that it's like messing with Raiden's own nanomachines inside his brain and directly talking to him through that connection, and that all of this stuff is sort of getting pieced together by things that Raiden either knows about or because of the VR training and different things. So it's almost like, and we get more of this later, but that virus is potentially causing this AI to freak out. But all of this is all of that stuff that's happening, all those conversations are inside Raiden's head. Like they're real in that they are happening through the nanomachine codec, but all of that stuff is just being generated by his own brain and the connections to this neural AI. And so Snake interrupts them, interrupts this conversation and says that all Raiden can do is ignore all of that and then focus on what's in front of him, and what you can see with your own eyes. Like that's all you can trust at this point. And as soon as we walk through the door, we get another call from the AI who tells us that they have Rose and that she's being held in the holds, or they have Rose as in like the terrorists, and that she's being held in the holds of the ship. And Raiden goes to freak out, and then Snake tells him to snap out of it. And he's like, dude, like, you know that that's not real. You just had this conversation. And Raiden then starts to spiral a bit, and he thinks, like, maybe Rose isn't real at all. Like, he's like, if they've already wiped my memory or if they've already changed these things, then what's to say that the last 2 years, like, I don't know what I can trust, essentially. And he goes, maybe this is what Olga is referring to, as in, like, what I would not be able to handle. And Snake just says that you just need to focus on right now and what's in front of us, and then we need to move forward. So we get onto the elevator, and we get through a fight, a little elevator fight that goes, and it's heading, towards the hangar. As we start to do this fight, we start to see more of this sort of mental, like, breaking that's happening, where as you're playing, the mission failed screen pulls out and shows, except it doesn't say mission failed. It's from the old meme that everybody's probably seen by this, but it says fission mailed. Sort of like, video 1 and then Hideo 1, like the way that they did that. So instead of saying mission failed, it says fission mailed here. And there's other irregularities that are shown basically during this whole thing. And it basically is just really lending to the fact that Raiden is kind of falling apart right now as far as his mental state is concerned, which I think is a really great touch. But after that fight, Fortune shows up, and she says that she's finally here to get even with Solid Snake for killing her father 2 years ago during the tanker incident. So we find out here, obviously, because, we weren't sure who she was related to or anything like that. We now know that the captain of the Marines was her dad. And so when Ocelot, died or whatever, she was actually fed the story that it was Solid Snake.
All of this stuff with Fortune that we're about to find out, you're about to talk about, also hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, and I agree, yeah. But she says that that's what she's here for, is revenge. And Snake sort of tells us to hurry up and get out of there, and that he's going to hold her off. We then make it to the quote-unquote hangar area, and are immediately met with a monologue from Solidus. And he basically tells us that the S3 plan stands for the Solid Snake Simulation, where the Patriots planned on trying to create their own version of Solid Snake to take out him, and by training him in those VR missions. And he does say that he is sorry to see us reduced to the Patriots' puppets, from the awesome killing machine that he used to, that he trained us into. And he sort of appears from nowhere, like he sort of like dashes in almost and tells us that it's over for us, and we have served our purpose and it's time to die. Now, I just want to, because this reveal ends up coming later, so I just want to sort of set the scene for people for this boss fight, is when he says it's time to die, a bunch of Metal Gear Rays show up, and that's the boss fight here. Now, the weirdest thing about this zone is that it almost looks like it's taking place in like a fake sort of
Empty room.
Almost like
It's
VR.
yeah, like an Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Thank you, Brett. It sort of takes place. It looks like it's like a VR area. Like there's like smoke that's kind of in the background, like this fog that's sort of hiding this. If you guys had a chance to look, it's like you see the full line of Metal Gear Rays that are just standing back there, sort of waiting to get activated. And you're on this like giant sort of like solid sort of like glass area that looks like there's like multiple layers of glass that are beneath this thing. And we're going to come back to that and why that's important, but I just wanted to sort of see or set the tone what it looks like. But we have this Metal Gear Ray boss fight, and this is the part where our playthroughs are going to differentiate a little bit. So this fight, that it changes based on what your difficulty is on, and how many of these things you have to fight. So on normal mode, you have to fight 8.
Damn.
On hard mode, you have to fight, I think it's like 14 or 15, and then on hard mode, it's 22
my
of the 25.
goodness.
Um,
On easy, I had 3 up at one time. I destroyed 2, and they came back. So I think I had 5.
5,
total.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had 4. I think I destroyed 1. I noticed them come back, and I did get killed 2 more, and then it just went to the cutscene.
The cutscene, so 3 then, it
3
sounds
or
like
4,
then.
yeah.
So now this fight, obviously there's multiple ways you can do it. There's but the easiest way, obviously, and the game will sort of try to lead you to this too, but Ray has a weak point right in its mouth while it's when it's wide open. So if you shoot it at its head normally, it will just do a normal amount of damage that will, sort of chip it along. But if you shoot it at any of its legs that you can target it onto and make it fall forward, and then its mouth will open up, and you shoot it in there, it does like a full third of its health bar, like a massive chunk, and then it can keep going down that way, and it allows you to fly through this fight a little bit faster. The way that you're supposed to figure that out is that some of the Rays that stand on the background, you'll see them sort of charge and open up and sort of like expel this exhaust from their mouth, and if you shoot one of them while they're like that, you'll see the big damage come across, and so you're like, oh, okay. So that is that fight. We go through, that's the differences, like I said, and when it looks like we're about to be overwhelmed by Metal Gear Rays, Olga shows up in the nick of time and saves us from being stomped out. And Solidus kind of comes back and says that he's been waiting for her to show up this whole time. And then he swings in and grabs her with the robot arm, and she tries to sort of struggle to tell us that, remember, that we have to live to save her child. And then Solidus shoots her right in the head.
Fucking
Dude, this was also like another like
it took me back.
holy shit moment
damn.
that
Yeah.
hit.
And
like,
I actually think this hits. Like that moment,
Yeah.
I was like, you don't
Yeah.
see it coming.
No.
And it's one of those moments where when it happens, you're like, Jesus. Like, okay. Like, I guess that's where we're at. And so then he asks us if we've enjoyed the show so far and if we're ready to pick up where we left off. And right when he goes to have the Metal Gear Ray sort of continue to attack us, they start freaking out with their eyes turning red. And Ocelot Ocelot says that he thinks it's GW, and that something is spreading across the neural network, and he can't stop it. And Solidus asks him what he's been up to, and then Ocelot just replies, "It's too late, and Arsenal Gear is already on an immediate ascent course." And at this moment, Fortune shows up and says that she's captured Snake, and Solidus tells him to bring him in, and then he knocks Raiden out, and then we get another save screen. And when we come to here, Raiden is actually able to see very clearly that we've been on top of Arsenal Gear this whole time. And the reason I think this is important is because that fight shows that Raiden was actually hallucinating that entire zone. Like, it was completely fabricated in his own mind, and he was actually just fighting on the top of Arsenal Gear this whole time. So, like, when Ocelot sort of dashes out of frame and he can't see, or it sounds like they're coming over these intercoms or whatever, they're actually just standing right on the outside of his little hallucination zone, more or less. And I think it's a really nice touch that it's not immediately apparent. They don't really like touch on it too heavily. But I think it is a nice touch to sort of sell what is going on with Raiden at this point, with everything that we've been learning. But Solidus says that he admits that he's underestimated us, and that he will squeeze the answers out of us, and we are met with the same torture minigame from Metal Gear Solid 1, except the damage goes down way faster this time, and it is very quick. But all we have to do is survive it once. And Fortune sort of interrupts and tells Solidus that she doesn't understand why he's doing this because she knows that Raiden doesn't know anything. And he replies that it's not actually him that he wants the answers from. But he goes, it's also not your business, so don't mind. And then Fortune sort of replies she goes, well, whatever, I've got my own business to attend to anyway. And she goes to walk away. And Solidus says that he goes that I already know about your plan to screw me over and hijack Arsenal gear. And that, in fact, he was the one who suggested the idea to Ocelot to give to her in the first place. He goes, all I've wanted this entire time from this entire thing is just a list of names of the Patriots so that he could go and hunt down each one of them and then kill them, while the rest of Dead Cell drew their attention away from him with Arsenal gear. And she mentions that clearly, while that's a nice plan, it's not going to work out for him since GW was all messed up. And Solidus says that he still has another way, but it's fine. She can just take it and move on. Like, he doesn't need it anymore. And just before Fortune decides to walk off, Ocelot starts laughing. And he mentions that this entire thing has been scripted exactly the way that it was supposed to go down, and that all this was set up by the Patriots. And so he goes, this whole thing was actually an orchestrated reproduction of Shadow Moses, and breaks down all the coincidences that happened from the beginning of the game all the way up till now, and where they match sort of events. And mentions that the virus running through GW was actually altered so that all it does is rip through the AI to remove all mentions and traces of the Patriots and then leave everything else. And then he even mentions that Fat Man was one of their agents to test Raiden's progress through the program, and that if he would have failed there and let it happen, then they would have just blown up the entire big shell and moved on. They wouldn't even, it wouldn't have kept going. Then he says that he also goes on to mention why Dead Cell was picked in the first place, and he goes, and he tells Fortune and Solidus that the only reason that Dead Cell was picked to be a part of this operation was because they're the closest group of freaks that they could find to match original Foxhound,
Yep.
which I thought was great. And then he also tells Solidus that the only reason that Raiden was selected over anybody else and him was because their relationship is close to the same one that Big Boss had with Snake and Liquid, and Solidus for that matter. And I think that this point is, and he goes, and the other thing is, he says the only thing that we didn't account for was the real Snake showing up. And he says that I wonder who sent for you in the first place, and they haven't been able. He says he hasn't been able to figure that part out yet. And right before I get to what happens next, I think this revelation and seeing it was such a good twist. I think because the entire time if you're your first time playing through this, you're kind of like, man, he's kind of just like rehashing some of this stuff, and it's a good way to lean into this and be like, oh, actually that was the point. Like, we're trying to rebuild this whole thing. And it was all a lie, which actually leans further into the game's message of you can trust nothing, right? Like, there's nothing, you can't trust any of this stuff, and it only gets worse as time goes on. But so Fortune goes to shoot Ocelot, and then he shoots her immediately, and doesn't miss, like it's been happening for Fortune all the way up until this point. And Ocelot says that she's never had any special luck or anything like that, and he goes, and it wasn't any of your psychic talents or anything. It was just that we placed electromagnetic tech on you, and that everything you've ever went through has all been orchestrated by the Patriots. And he goes on to say, like, we planted the story about Snake killing your dad. We made it so that, all of these, we also put your husband in jail afterwards. And we knew that when all these things would happen, there was a chance that you would, choose vengeance all over these things. And we knew you were going to do it, and you did it. And that's why you're here, and this, all of this stuff, right?
I thought that the whole part was brilliant, especially with the electromagnetic tech, right?
Yeah.
Where he was like, "You're nothing, right? You're not special. Like, we did that to you." Was great.
Yeah, it's such a great way to show that, because everybody up at that point, right, is trying to get one over on the Patriots, and so it's this moment of, like, to your point, Alex, like, you have nothing actually, like, you are not in control of the situation whatsoever, right? And so she goes to shoot him again, and he's surprised because he thought he hit her in the heart, but then he remembers that her organs are on the opposite sides. And while the bullet still misses him, he's like, it's still going to miss me because I have the same tech that you have, but except mine is turned on right now and yours is off. And so that's why your bullets are missing me. And so he jumps into Metal Gear Ray while we're peeling all of the rockets and bullets that Solidus tries to send his way. And so Ocelot says all he has left to do is to kill them and collect Arsenal gear, and then he's done. He's going to be on his way. And he goes, so here's your reward, and he shoots off the entire payload of missiles that this Metal Gear Ray is having. And Fortune sort of gets her final sort of little moment here, where she uses the last of her sort of energy to focus her psychic ability to push these missiles away from the general group. They still hit all over Arsenal gear or, go into the ocean, or not the ocean, the bay and everything else. But for the general group of them that are right around her, she's able to stop them from hitting that particular area, and then she dies. And Ocelot, is like, well, that's obviously inconvenient, but I'm just going to charge up my laser beam and kill you that way then. In this moment, Liquid finally makes his jump and takes over Ocelot's body. And because Ocelot is in the pilot seat and he's locked in, he cannot do anything about it. And who are we met with but that beautiful British voice of Liquid's voice actor screaming "brothers" from the top of it. And it was me, Dio, the whole time.
Well, can I say that was exactly what came to my mind. And this is the only thing for me that doesn't hit.
So I will say this. I personally think that the reason this still hits for me is because you've been seeing... We saw him already sort of gain control of Ocelot for a little bit in the tanker mission. Yep. So we know it's something that can happen. We've been watching Ocelot sort of struggle with this the entire time.
Right.
We also know that up until this point, the way that nanomachines are interacting with people, that they are clearly, whether it's giving somebody like Vamp's abilities or giving somebody these crazy ass hallucinations like Raiden has had this entire game and all of this stuff, we clearly know that what they're describing here is allegedly possible.
Yes.
So within the bounds of it, I do think that it still works for me. I do think of all of the anime bullshit that is in these games outside of Vamp, because I think I will die on the hill that I think Vamp is worse than this as far as anime bullshit is concerned. Sure. This is the number 2 twist of anime bullshit where it's like...
You're hitting exactly what I was thinking. Like, it makes sense and it works, but it didn't land for me because of... Yes, and you put it exactly what I was... Like, yeah, I roll my eyes because they're like, oh, this is some fucking anime bullshit. Right? Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
It is anime bullshit, yeah. And I do not think it's the worst one. My genuinely, my worst one is Vamp. Anytime he's on the screen, I'm like, oh, God, you're just annoying. Yeah. But this, I think, is a number 2. But it is also... It's just funny enough that it doesn't make me angry like Vamp does.
Sure.
But it is just as anime bullshit for sure. But I do love that it was me, Dio, the whole time, and he sort of jumps out. But the best part is that so we see Liquid, we get his voice actor now, which I do love that they brought his voice actor back and did all of this stuff, because it is, as soon as you hear the brothers part, you're like, oh, dude, that is him. Like, it is right there, right? But so he takes over Ocelot's body. Can I just say really quick, Alex, I thought for sure the part you were going to say was Fortune's organs being on the other side of her body was what pissed you off.
No.
So that's funny that it was this one. But he says that he's like, anyway, I'm fucking out of here. I'm going to go kill the Patriots since Ocelot knows where they're at, which is why I wanted him to take my arm and be the host, like, anyway. And he goes, but you guys have fun, and also just remember there can be only one boss and one snake, so one of you has to figure it out and kill the other one basically. And he hops in Metal Gear Ray and he goes to peace off. And at this moment, Snake does his real cool guy thing and breaks the cuffs that were holding him and jumps off and sort of grabs onto the little tail end of Metal Gear Ray as he dives off after it. And right after that, we are met with a screen cut because obviously at the time, around the time, it came before it, but it was edited later where you're not going to want to show anything sort of crashing into New York around this time.
I didn't even put that
like
together.
So we get a nice black cut where as soon as our Arsenal gear is coming under the bridge, it cuts immediately, and we now find ourselves having crashed all the way inland to the federal building, and that's where we stopped.
I did not put that together.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you think about it based on where the Hudson Bay is at to where the federal building is at, because this is a tragedy as far as like destruction that is led all the way up to that. But it's
I
huge.
assume you could just go online and see that OG, because if you have the OG game on
I don't
PlayStation
know that there's
2,
I don't know that exists. I think it was pre-production, so I believe that what happened was that like before the game launched, this I do not remember this part, so I could be wrong. I reserve the right to be wrong on that, but I think that this was before production actually finished, and so they went back and edited it before the game actually launched. So we show up, or we get that cut, and we show up in front of the federal building, and Solidus starts maniacally laughing, and we ask him what he's laughing at. And he says, "Do you know what day it is?" And Raiden once again replies the same thing with April 30th. And Solidus goes, "That is correct. It is the exact 200-year anniversary of when George Washington took office as president, and it was right in this part of the city that Solidus was going to announce a new Independence Day on this same anniversary from the Patriots." And he says, and Raiden just goes, "All you are is just a power-hungry madman." And Solidus says that that's completely incorrect. And he's like, "All I want is true freedom for people to be able to not live under the thumb of a ruling class like the Patriots anymore." Fair. So right before we get into this next part, there is a moment here when Solidus sort of goes on his speech about like why he thinks the Patriots are so evil and why he thinks it's a worthy cause to go and dismantle this whole system of lies and bullshit and misinformation and all of this stuff. And it comes to the end where you go, yeah, like I think that the only thing that you can take, and this is, again, I think of like a mark of a good sort of villain, but it's one of those situations where you go like, I agree with what you're saying, I just think your methods were wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Going into the Liberian Civil War, using child soldiers and doing all this other crazy shit and then murdering a bunch of these people, wrong. Incorrect. However, I understand what you're saying as far as like what your ultimate goal is to achieve. You just happen to think that all these other things are stepping stones and not that big of a deal. And so right from this moment, we are interrupted by a codec call from the AI that was impersonating the Colonel. And I actually love Anne Rose for that matter, and they tell us that that only the GW itself was destroyed, but the rest of the AI and neural network is still totally there as far as what the Patriots were trying to do. And we are given basically the elevator pitch of the Patriots onto what their true plan is and why they want Raiden to believe that they are useful and on the right side of history. And they sort of go on to this deep dive of that everything they're doing is for the betterment of society, because without something like them at the helm, then all humanity will do is smother itself and continue to fight pointless wars over nothing and eradicate itself if it's left to its own devices. And Raiden sort of tries to argue in the middle here, where he's saying that like you don't get to decide that for people. Like people should be able to decide what's important to him or what's important to them. And what they will sort of pass on to other people and to the future generations and different things. And the Patriots kind of like immediately respond by saying like, it's actually it's ridiculous that you're even trying to give us this lecture when that idea isn't even your own. Like, you didn't come up with that. Snake gave that idea to you not 45 minutes ago. And he they go on to say that like even everything that he understands up until this point is incorrect. And so he's like, the S3 plan does not actually stand for the what Solidus thought it stood for. It stands for the Selection for Societal Sanity program, and that it was a system designed to govern the will and sanity of all of society. And then they go on to say that everything Raiden went through was the final test of this plan, this plan's effectiveness. And they were like, if a subject can overcome a situation as extreme as Shadow Moses, then it could overcome anything. And then it makes a jab at wondering if Raiden would have preferred a fantasy setting versus this one. And then they go on to say that the only reason Raiden was picked over all of the other child soldiers that had a connection to Solidus is because he's the only one who turns his back on things that he doesn't like and only is trying to see things that he wants to see or that he wants to pay attention to. Even down to the relationship with Rose, where they go, you were only paying attention to the things that you wanted to see, and if you hadn't been, you would have seen any of the other red flags that she was a spy or doing any of the other stuff. Kind of like a James Bond, like we were talking about earlier, right? They then go on to say that they've had enough, and that this is like they've gotten enough data on all of this, and that the only thing that's left is for him to kill Solidus. And Raiden responds basically saying, he's like, you just told me all of this, like I'm not going to be doing any of that, like, at all. And they go, well, if you don't want Olga's child to die and the real Rose, you will. And they go, no matter which one of you wins, the exercise will still be marked as a success, and they are eager to see which one of our little creations win, or one of our little monster creations win, is what they say. Which actually, as far as like the real quote-unquote villain of this being the Patriots and everything, I think that's kind of like a really good line to be like, sort of like brush you off and be like, which one of my little things will actually end up being the thing that wins, right? And we cut back to Solidus, who tells us that it's time to see which one of them is going to prevail. And he also decides to mention that, just to make sure that Raiden's really all the way in it, that he was the one who killed our parents and turned us into an orphan in the first place. And he says that the reason that he did it was because he wanted to see if everything truly was being controlled by the Patriots, like how Liquid and Solid hunted down Big Boss to try to sever the tie that bound those two together, or those three together, I should say, and how he was like, now I'm giving you the same choice. And he tells us to brace ourselves for the fight because he's going to try and kill us so that he can rip the nanomachines out of our brain and use that to sort of work backwards and figure out the locations of the Patriots. And then right here we get the Solidus fight. So the Solidus fight here is the final boss fight. And this fight is you have the sword, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but if you zoom in when Solidus pulls out his two swords, it's like the dumbest thing, but I do kind of like it, where both swords have names written on the side of them. Yeah. And one is Democrat and the other is Republican.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And and it's just weird because he used to be the president, and then obviously the Patriots playing both sides and doing all this other stuff. Like, it was not an Easter egg that needed to be in there, but of course he goes for it. And so as the fight goes on, though, Raiden ends up getting the drop on him and sort of slashes him in the back, sort of across like his spine, and Solidus falls off the top of Arsenal Gear and lands at the feet of the George Washington statue. And then we cut to a scene with Raiden on the ground, while people and first responders all sort of move around him in slow-mo. And Raiden out loud sort of wonders himself. He goes, "Who am I? Like, who am I?" And at this point, Snake appears behind him and says, no one really knows who they are or what they are, but it's the choices and moments throughout like their lives that define who they are. And he tells Raiden that regardless of what is fake or real elsewhere, like as far as everything that was going on before this. He goes, every moment that you had in this mission, everything that you thought, all that stuff, everything that you felt, is all his, and nobody can take that away from you. And then what you decide to do with all of that is up to Raiden. There's no one else gets to make that choice for him. And Raiden sort of responds by asking if he means that he can just start over. And Snake sort of is like, plainly like, yeah, you can have a clean slate with a new name and new memories. You get to be able to choose that. Like, you did it. You won. Like, there's nobody can stop you from doing that. And we actually get this nice detail here where the dog tags that Raiden was carrying this whole time were our save file name. And Snake asks him, if he knows who that is, and Raiden's like, no, I don't. But rather than even try to remember, I agree with you. Like, I'm going to start this over. And so he rips them off and sort of throws them. And it's, symbolizing sort of that he's starting over and letting go of all of his past stuff. And he asks Snake, he goes, well, what about Olga's child? And Snake says, don't even worry about that. I'm going to find him. And to be honest, as long as you stay alive, the Patriots aren't going to kill him. So as long as you stay alive, I have an unlimited amount of time to find him. And we then asked him about Liquid, and Snake was like, yeah, I actually, while I was still attached to Metal Gear, I was able to get a tracker on his Metal Gear Ray. And he goes, and I'm able to tell that he was headed for the Patriots. He goes, but to be honest, I don't think it's actually going to amount to anything, because I think that Ocelot was given a bogus location to begin with. He then tells us to cheer up because we have a better lead, and he pulls out the disc from before, the virus disc. And, Raiden is sort of taken aback because he doesn't understand how he has it, and he goes, well, when we knocked you out, like, I replaced it with the one that you had from before. And he goes, the reason that this is going to work, or the reason that this is a good lead or a better lead, is because I'm going to have Otacon sort of work backwards in that virus. Because if the virus's whole point was to erase traces of the Patriots from GW, then that means that there's a parameter in there that says what data it's searching for. So he's like, if we find that, then we'll be able to find who the Patriots are and be able to go through there. So Raiden is like, I'm in. Like, let's do it. Let's go. And Snake says, no, you can't come with me because you have other things that you need to do and people to talk to right now. And Raiden sort of turns around and sees Rose, and so we run up to her, and we ask, who are we? Like, because, she was the one who was tasked with spying on him and doing all this other stuff. And she goes, honestly, I don't actually know up until I met you, but she goes, I want to find out together. So then Raiden agrees, and they share a nice little moment, and he also finally remembers that today is the day that they met, and it's their anniversary. And so that question is finally answered now. And Raiden then says that he wants to focus on being a dad and raising their child, and so that's sort of what his new sort of goal is to be going forward. Like, that's what he's choosing. And we sort of fade out to black, and after the credits, we get another monologue from Snake.
Again, the credits, I love when they get to the credits. They're like one extra little thing, and again, it hit really well.
Yeah, and so this whole thing is Snake basically giving a longer monologue to the thing that he said to Raiden, right, about what just important on, making sure that you are taking, like, nothing should be hidden, right? Like, we take all of the good and bad details so that people can learn correctly from it and move on, and it's the best thing that we can do and all this other stuff, and it's a nice message. And then at the end, we get some audio from him and Otacon about how he finished going over the data, and he found all 12 Patriots and names and locations, and they're all around Manhattan, except that it seems like from what he can find, all of them have been dead for 100 years. Snake then responds with, what the hell is going on around here? And then, boom, we hit the end of the game. So, I will obviously, I'll finish, I'll end it, but, that's it. We did it. Metal Gear Solid 2 is done. So where are you guys feeling? Go ahead, rate it, do all that stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought, like I said, I loved all the twists. The only one I rolled my eyes at was the "It's me, Dio" the whole time, right? Because it's just like of any Sorry if you're coughing. That is Bash down here having a coughing fit. Um, yeah, I know, little man. You should go somewhere else, please. Anyway, water does not help right now. But yeah, I thought everything was really, really good, including the ending. I did look up if there was footage, like, so this game was like 2 months after 9/11, and
Yeah.
I guess the story and from interviews is that like Arsenal Gear was supposed to crash into the Statue of Liberty, take
Yeah.
out a bunch of buildings, and there is conflicting information if Solidus was like on the top and even ripping down like American flags as they passed by.
Sure.
But a couple months after 9/11 is not the best time to
No,
have that.
no.
New.
But I thought all of that was, I don't know, man. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good twist. Again, I respected the decision to not change locales and keep it all
Yeah.
in one place until the very end, where you're like, this whole thing is the gear itself, and now we've broken free and we've crashed in New York. Like, I thought it was all really, really well done. It was handled well. Nothing ever felt tedious per se. So I was impressed. I thought he landed the plane on this one really, really well. If I had to rate it out of 5, I would give it a, because these games aren't my favorite games, I don't think I'd go as high as like a 4, I think, but a 3.5. I would probably rate it a 3.5 out of 5. I think these are better characters than the last game. I think the way, rather than characters of just having weird powers for weird power's sake, like Fat Man was a crazy dude that was obsessed with bombs, right? And was trying to get revenge on somebody that dismantled a bomb. And then like Fortune had the electromagnetic stuff. Like they explained away everything except for Vamp. Well, and I guess even Vamp they explained away too. Nano machines,
Just
right? So like nanites.
Yeah.
I think they did a good
Just
job
nanites.
with all of that. And I tell you, from the time you find Emma till the end is like pedal to the metal, like to the floor, just racing to the end. So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm excited to check out 3 and see how that evolves and see where the story, like if we continue on these Patriots, like where this goes.
It does. I promise you, it goes all the way to it. There is, especially in 4, and boy, we are in for a treat there.
It's because it's called Sons of the Patriots, right?
Well, Guns of the Patriots,
Guns of the
but
Patriots, that's right.
yeah, that note, I assure you, outside of the things that happen in Revengeance, which really only center around Raiden, there is not a single question that they leave unanswered,
Alright.
for better or for worse. But it does happen in 4. 3 is obviously a prequel. It's all there. My favorite thing about 3 that I'll say just really quick is that when we get there, when you guys play through it, depending on whether or not we do the remake, but you will see the absolute edge of what the PS2 can do. And it's really cool to see that kind of like a swan song for that kind of console. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. I liked all of it. I thought that some of this times there was a little too much of a lore dump. Like, I don't know how you would space it out. Maybe just not have that much lore in one game.
You're
I don't know.
you're gonna hate 4.
Is it for infamously like a 70-minute cutscene or something?
Yeah, so it just gave it a dump. Maybe it was because also like I didn't like this game as much as I liked the first one.
Interesting.
As far as like the beginning of Raiden, like I wasn't as big of a fan of that character going in. Like towards the end, you kind of see how he kind of becomes a little more like the character we enjoy in Revengeance. And I'm sure within 3 and 4 we might get a little bit more as far as that on top of everything. But this is, I'm not the biggest fan of Raiden in this game. Whether it's, and also like all the Rose shit, like you do not need to give me like 5 minutes. It's not 5 minutes. It felt like 5 minutes of Rose talking to me about the relationship shit after like I want to save the fucking game. And I just feel like that back half is just lore dumpy. Like, I mean, I'm working on 4 to 5 hours of this playthrough. Like, it's getting a little bit later at night. Not too late. It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night. But, like, I've been playing 4 or 5 hours, and now we got this, like, 45-minute, like, dump of, like, just information. And, like, honestly, like, towards the end there, like, I'm doing a little more, like, I want to pay attention. It's not that I don't want to pay attention. It's just, like, I'm just fucking tired. I'm tired, and I'm just getting a whole historical Oracle lore dump. And it's just, as far as what they're showing you, it's not giving you as much as I would like. A lot of it's like video flashes and things of photos that kind of like got a little bit of a gradient to it, and maybe some like real life video also, like just like of showing people walking around fucking New York or something like that. And it's just the only like thing we got as like fully animated for any of those flashbacks was a lot more like the Raiden when he was like a kid type of deal. But like you don't get any like visual representation of like what happened with Octagon's parents or like when they were younger or anything like that. It's just a lot of disposition either done in codex, which is a boring looking thing when you look at codex. It's just a little bunch of mouths going hum 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 hum, like for a good 15 minutes, and then you got like the video cutscenes to where unless you were on that raft area, like it's just the montages of like images and stuff like that, to which was a little boring for me, especially when they get a little too long with the lore dump. So with that, with me not enjoying Raiden as much, I'll give a rating here in a second. I did want to mention though, very easy was not the way to go about this again. When you are going through with Snake down that hallway and you got the sword, I had a hard time catching up to enemies before he killed them. This motherfucker is getting everybody. When you're in the elevator and people are just dropping down, I'm trying to run to guys so I can get a swing on them. He's just like, nope, like right as they hit, he takes them out. He's a badass, don't get me wrong.
That kind of works for a Snake, though.
It's kind of a story thing, right? But it's just, I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, this is too easy because like even Snake is having way too good of a time here because it's just, I can't even touch a guy.
Sure.
All that being said, it's not the worst game in the world. I still did enjoy myself. Like the Kojima goofy lore dumps, like I like that. I just feel with me not enjoying Raiden as much, with this being like the same kind of level the entire way through as well, like not a whole lot of visual changes on here. I think I'm going to kind of agree with Alex on this one. Like I think I gave 4.5 to Metal Gear 1. I think I'm going to drop this one down to a full point, like a 3.5. It's not a bad game. It's definitely above average.
I don't remember
game.
what you gave Metal Gear 1. I can't remember.
I just looked it up while we were talking.
Did.
I'm pretty sure I did a 4.5.
Yeah.
At least that's what I put on GG. So, but yeah, I just feel like with the samey on the levels, with the overdoing on the lore dump, with me and not enjoying his Raiden as much, definitely probably gonna get like a 3.5. Not a bad game. Definitely above average. Kojima is still at peak on when it comes to his actual storytelling, but just didn't like it as much.
Yeah, so I have a weird relationship with this game as far as, so I think I gave Metal Gear Solid 1 to 3.5 when we played it. And before, again, like I said, I have not played any of these games outside of 3. I have not played any of these games more than one time since its release, and Revengeance obviously, but that's different. So this is my first time coming back to this game. And before, my list was that I had this game below Metal Gear Solid 1. And I actually have come around to it where I think I'm putting it above it now. I would give it a 4. The reason that I go that is that I think the general message that Kojima goes on here about misinformation and what it can do to people and how it affects people and how it can be used and weaponized against people and all of these different things, I think hits the mark today, especially.
Yeah, very good writing.
So on the nose that it did not hit back then, like when I first played it, obviously, for obvious reasons, because it was like oh man, this is like so far off, and like it's cool, whatever, but like whatever,
that's
it
just wasn't a thing. My game, yeah, it's AI.
But like now, like we're sitting here in an age where like people are getting fooled by AI videos today, right now, about and getting riled up and angry and reactive about things that didn't even happen. And so to have this whole game go through and break down around you in real time as Raiden, where there's little things that happen, and you start thinking throughout the entire time where you're like, oh, there's like moments of different things happening where the game was actually trying to tell you that things might not be what it seems, right? Or like all these conversations that happen with Raiden, like even back to, a couple parts ago where you're talking with the president, right? And the president's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, do you not know anything? And it's one of these moments where it's like, because they all know what you are, but you still don't. And so like, they're like, what are you talking about with the Colonel and all this other shit and Foxhound? And like, they're like, what? Like, no one even, but they don't have, obviously in the middle of this incident, no one has time to even sit there and try to correct you. But they're just like, whatever, I'm sure he'll figure it out. Like, who knows, right? And so it's all these different things, and just having all these moments sort of come together, and it goes even down to the boss fight room being a hallucination and being wrong and being in Raiden's head and these different things, and then watching sort of Raiden wrestle with that the entire time as like, and it is able to I genuinely, I think for all of, and it happens a lot, especially in a game that we'll talk about later with Death Stranding, but for all of Kojima's writing that sometimes doesn't hit, I actually think this one hits a good amount, like especially on the premise alone. And so I came away from it being like, man, I actually really resonate with this message even more today than I did like way back then. So yeah, I would sit at a 4. I would, and you know, the Raiden thing I do understand, because I also saw him as like a little,
especially coming from someone
like
like me who like, I played the cool Raiden first. Now I'm going back here. I'm like, it's kind of.
I watched him grow into that, so it's a little different. And when we get to 4, we'll see sort of like the middle gap between this Raiden and then the one in Revengeance, and we'll see like him really doing some cool shit.
Find out how he gets his fucking jaw removed. So.
Yeah. So
I'm waiting for that to happen. Like
stuff.
someone fucked up shit. Is he gonna lose his jaw in this game
No.
or something like
That's
that?
all.
Like,
There's no. That's
sure
that. Yeah, everything's in 4. Yeah, with him. So the next time we see Raiden will be in 4. Okay. But yeah, that's it, man. I came away from this game thinking that I was gonna end up making a bunch of people mad because I was gonna say that I think it's worse than the first one. And I'm coming away being like, oh, I actually have to think about what my full series list is now, because
that's fine.
That's okay. But I was like, this actually is hitting way harder than I thought it would be. And like I said, I think that message and the whole premise of this game is like more spot on than he's probably ever been, especially with what's happening today. So yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah.
Cool. All right, everybody. Well, that is that. Thanks for tuning in. Don't worry, Preston. I'm gonna say what my game is in just a second.
I'm not worried. Look at Christian.
Thanks for hanging out with us. You know, if you guys have played this, let us know what you thought. Is it better or worse than the first? But I enjoyed it. It was good. So on to our next game of this month. So let me ask you guys a question. How do you feel about a nice, big set, voluptuous polygons?
I know what this is now. Okay.
About the collection.
I'll be honest, I thought Preston bought this.
No, that was me. So, boys, we are going to play 2 games. My next 2, I'll go ahead and tell you my next 2 picks now, because they fit with where we are. So the first game we're going to play is Tomb Raider Remastered, because we are about to hit the 25-year anniversary, which is Jesus. I know. And then the next game we're gonna play is going to be the second in the new series.
So we're skipping. We're going the first one, the old series, and then the second one in the brand new. Like
we are.
Dynamics.
Yeah. We are skipping, and the reason we're doing that is because that is at 10 years. So we're going to do a retrospective here of the OG at 25 and then the reboot at 10. Okay. So yeah, that's
okay. Cool.
I know we are in for a doozy possibly. I'll give you. I don't know that I've ever beaten this first game. My first experience with Tomb Raider was on the Sega Saturn at a neighbor's house. They had Tomb Raider, and that was the only opportunity I had to play it. So I know I didn't beat it, and I can't specifically tell you which one of these first 2 it is.
I remember just shooting, I just remember the dinosaurs shooting velociraptors.
I have done.
That's why I thought Preston was the one who bought it, because he's the only one that I've talked to about these games before.
Yeah. So I have done the Lara Croft Manor in because at one point Tomb Raider was on the iOS, right? And I had it there virtually, but I never fully beat it. So I bought all of it. We have 1 through 6. We're not going to play 1 through 6 on this book club.
Sure do.
For you all to know on the pod, if you ever get a hankering, we have 1 through 6. So we are going to play I think we're gonna break this up into 4 parts. We're gonna see how the first one goes because there's not a great.
Feel free to stretch it out. We're also still trying to buy time for Metal Gear 3 remake, possibly. So feel free to stretch
Well,
it.
we might. This game, How Long to Beat's longer than I expected it to be.
Okay.
It's like 15 hours, which is weird.
Shit. Okay.
I know.
Hey, it's cool.
So playthrough number 1, we're actually going to do Lara Croft Manor and all of the Peru levels. There should be 4, so it's total 5. If it works out that way, what we're going to do is all of Peru, all of Greece, all of Egypt, and all of it. The final area. I almost said that was the final area.
As in how you split it up. Okay, so
Yeah,
we're stopping after the Peru levels.
Yes. So you'll stop when you get to Greece. It should be level. We'll do the training area and then 1 through 4. We'll see how it goes. I think we'll talk about it before the next one, depending on how much you guys mainline, how much you find secret, how long that takes us. We may break up the further. So for anybody listening, for you listeners out there, I have the right of changing my mind. But we're gonna shoot for number 1 at all of Peru. We'll see how it goes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is that. Thank you for hanging out with us, everybody. We will catch you next week. Don't forget to tune in for Preston's Star Wars Sundays, and then we will be back at you with another, just normal weekly episode and first episode of our book club for the next part. Thanks, everybody. And with that, Preston, you know what to do.
I thought my computer froze up. Don't do that again. Hit it! Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or to check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. If watching is more your thing, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/@thetestingroom, or watch us live on twitch.tv/testingroomlive. To leave comments or ask questions, you can follow us on Instagram @testingroompod, leave a comment on YouTube, or send them in to testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.